Hi there, just read this disclaimer please.
Alright folks, how's it going? Ever since I created this Fundsmith approximation in Trading 212, it's just felt wrong in my gut to be owning Nike. I just can't fathom why someone would spend so much money on trainers, stuff like that. Everywhere I go, every country I've been in, I've visited the Nike store because of this holding, and every single one of them has been empty. The prices I've looked at have been ridiculously high, and it just has never sat well with me having it in the portfolio. But I couldn't think of a reason that wasn't me making a judgment, because that's me making a judgment, isn't it, that expensive things are bad, because I'm a tight-fisted bugger. The reasonings for these three not being included in my approximation, they're not really me judging the three companies. That's me saying, well, I've got those in other parts of my portfolio, and I want this part of the portfolio to be growthier and not in the UK. So they're not me making judgments. And that's why in the end I decided to be somewhat robotic about it and just buy Nike because Terry Smith bought Nike. But obviously it's gone wrong. It could easily have gone right, who knows. If I had decided not to include it, you can guarantee it would have gone up and I'd have been kicking myself. Whatever I did would have ended up being wrong. So I've decided today to sell it. What's kind of prompted it is this guy on YouTube. He has made a new purchase, as you can see there, and he's purchased Booking Holding. The reason I want to go for this one is not any deep reason. It's just the fact that I was a customer, and I will be a customer in the future. Because when I was in Asia for a lot of the time, sorry, wrong window. For a lot of the time, I was using Agoda to book my hotels. I was in Thailand and Vietnam, and I'm probably going to go back, and I'll probably end up using it again in the future. I don't know. It just gives me a good feeling when I buy a stock where I'm a customer. It shows that there's a value proposition there. It's one of the reasons out of all of that fella's holdings, I didn't buy everything he owns. I just selected a handful of them, and that's one of the reasons why I bought, why Costco was one of them. It's because I just know if I was American, I for sure would be a Costco customer because it's a value proposition for the customer, and that's why I don't like Nike. Now I already have, or Fundsmith already has, Amadeus and Marriott. It's Marriott, isn't it? Which are kind of both in the travel, hotels. Well, Amadeus is kind of the IT behind lots of airlines and hotels websites, so it's pretty similar to Bookings, except they don't own. They don't run the websites. They provide the technology for other people's websites. I think that's it. That's what it is. Anyway, I've not really spent much time, but yeah, here's the Wikipedia page on Amadeus. So I've already got, if we add that up, I've already got 2.7. I've already got 5.1 or 5.2% of the portfolio in that kind of realm, in that category. So I think I will take a bit out of those two and use Nike, but I don't want it to be too much. So if I limit it to 6% of the portfolio, I'll adjust the portfolio with those numbers. You can see the formula there. I've just set those three holdings to be 2% of the portfolio, so that's the adjustment needed for those. And then I'll just spread the leftover into these other three holdings that Joseph Carlson has selected for me. Because this is the other thing. It's one of these buying at a high situations. We're already at a 5-year high. It's one of these stocks that just keeps going up and up. Joseph talks through like their cash flow yield is about 4.9%, I think, off memory, and it's growing at like 20% a year or something like that. Again, I watched this about a week ago, so don't take those numbers as read. I'm just going off memory there. You can see the chart and think, oh, this must be a bad time to buy, but actually it's not too badly valued. That price to earnings ratio of 29 isn't so bad when you include a 20% growth of the E. Alright, I'll check in later once it's done. Alright, so I've just done the actual buys and sells. So here they are. Sold some Amadeus, sold some Marriott, sold all of the Nike, bought the Booking, about 500 quid-ish worth, and then bought the 3 other shares for the same amount, £91.80 I think it was. So if we go into the spreadsheet, I've just updated the spreadsheet with all the new numbers, and I've set up this little macro in Google Docs. So if I go Control Shift Alt 1, it runs a script and sorts it. So now we have, because the Amadeus and Marriott would have gone down the list because I sold some of them, they'll be right at the bottom now with the others. Yeah, so all of the travel and hotel sort of ones are all at the bottom now, roughly 2% each. The 3 I added to have been promoted. Oh, have they been promoted? No, they're just closer to being promoted now, because they were all about 3% anyway. So they would have been, yeah, they would have been in the same position before. But they're a lot closer now to overtaking ADP, which is just above them. Alright, that's cool. I feel better now that Nike's not there. Just as a side note, oh, see, it's all reversed today, but BlackRock Smaller Companies yesterday was above 38 grand. Having a little bit of a comeback. Next Energy Solar has been doing quite well as well. Up about 16%. But on the other hand, Gore Street Energy Storage, they've lowered their dividend for next year to be about about 7p, which is half a p lower than before. But they're paying it in this way because they expect in Q3 they'll have more of their battery storage online, and so Q4 should have more earnings potential. They're doing the sensible thing basically. They're setting their dividends based on their cash flows. Because what happened when all of these funds started was they kind of set their dividend. It was stupid, really. They set the dividend based on their eventual earnings. Instead of just like starting the company, gradually getting things moving, and then paying a dividend when you had the cash flows, they set the dividend policy based on future, which is just stupid in my mind. But I guess they probably struggled to get investors on board if there was no dividend being paid. This is why I factored in. I used to have factored in a 50% drop in this dividend because it was like 11%. Well, it still is really. So I used to have factored in 50p. So what I've now factored in, just to keep my expectation of the dividend the same, I've lowered the dividend to 7p here, and I've now factored in a slightly higher percentage rather than the full 50% drop. I've gone for like a 46% drop. Basically, it's my worst case scenario is it like gradually getting made true. So I think it's wise for me to keep factoring in a cut in the dividend, because I would expect 7p to be optimistic for the year after. They're trying to let us down gradually. Instead of going from 7.5p to 3p, which they probably should, maybe 4p, they're doing it gradually. So I expect this. We've had a bit of a cut next year, and then the year after that I reckon there'll be a bigger cut, because they've kind of pre-warned us that it's going to be based on cash flows. But you know, my expectations were never that I'll get 11% from this. I factored in a 50% drop. Anyway, that's it for today. I'll see you later. Bye bye.